I just love the fall. I love the days getting a bit shorter. I tend to sleep better. It's all those things. But definitely, give us a call today, 862-2525, in regards to any gardening questions that you may have at this time of year. There's lots going on. And on that note, we're going to go right to the tip of the week. Alrighty, now my tip of the week says that it's time to bring in your tropical plants. So people who have assortments of different kinds of annual plants and tropicals and all different things on their patios, this is about the right time to think about bringing them in. I know next week's going to be good weather. It's going to be a little bit warmer than it is today. But this is the weekend. I would say either this weekend or next weekend, you want to make sure you get those into the house where they're safe, just in case. We've had some chilly nights, and those plants are probably ready to get back into the house. All right, my plant of the week this week is the Pinky Winky hydrangea. We just love that name. Pinky Winky is a beautiful, beautiful hydrangea, and right now it's really coloring up. Typical of the PG hydrangea types is that they're typically sort of a white color through the early summer. And as they ripen into midsummer, they start to get a little tint of green on them, and then they start to glow this beautiful pink color. And that's what we're seeing right now in the gardens. They're really, really starting to ripen up to that beautiful color, and they're looking great. So a lot of the PG hydrangeas are fabulous, but Pinky Winky is one of our favorites. And try one in your garden if you haven't yet. That's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com. Alrighty, well, there you go. Another Saturday, another garden show, and we've been talking about a bunch of different things on the show in the last couple of weeks, and obviously it's fall gardening time. We're thinking about bulbs, we're thinking about fall planters, we're thinking about asters, we're thinking about pansies, fall pansies. It just seems like people just don't plant pansies anymore. Years ago, this was a big deal. Every fall, all the garden centers would stock full of pansies, and people would rush out and get them all planted. And those pansies would bloom and do their thing up until the frost would knock them down a bit, usually by the end of October or so. And then they would just sit there and wait for spring. And then in spring, the pansies would leap into action and just put on a beautiful show, often right through the month of March, which is really fabulous. They are frost tolerant, and they just love to grow in cool temperatures. So anyway, I'm just saying, that's something you could always try. This is not a bad time to be thinking about it right now. All right, another thing that's happening is the beautiful gardens that we are growing, and people who are lucky enough to have those vegetable beds. We got to think about maybe some cover crops. And with the cover crop group, what it is just basically a plant that you plant in place of your garden plants, so that you can get some roots into the ground that help to break up that earth. And also you get a little bit of what's called green manure, which just means that you're getting some plants that are living in that garden space, and they're really, really rooting in, and they're doing their thing, and the foliage comes up really quickly. And these are called fall cover crops. And there's all kinds of plants that can fit into this category. The farmers know about it because they'll often be doing that. And you can plant your fall crops anytime. As soon as your last crop comes off the soil and you end up with this like barren soil situation, you don't ever really want to leave your soil just sitting there barren. It's something that's not a real great thing to do for your vegetable garden. It's really highly recommended. Once you get your crop off, you can always apply more compost, to make those worms nice and happy. But then you can apply a cover crop of some sort. And the common one that we hear of a lot is fall rye. And fall rye is one of these things that people do plant in the fall, and this is the time right now. And those plants, you'll put them into the ground, and they fairly rapidly will start to shoot up. And this will give you this nice maybe 6 to 8 inches of growth, maybe even up to 12 inches before winter hits. And then they just basically kind of collapse with the frost, but they don't always die. They'll get through the winter often and then shoot again in the spring. Then when you go out in the spring, you just turn in that green manure, and you've got a beautiful start for your vegetable garden. So I highly recommend it. It's a nice touch to do. But just remember that, again, farmers know about this, and they apply all different types of plants that they use as a cover crop. And some of these plants would be things like oats, crimson clover, peas. Annual ryegrass is one that I really like too. Annual ryegrass is actually a grass that's used sometimes when you're seeding your lawns. It only lasts the one season, but it stays a little bit shorter than the regular rye that we put on in the gardens, the fall rye. It's a little bit taller version. Red clover, wheat is sometimes seeded. White clover, mustard, radish, barley. I actually like radish sometimes. It's kind of a nice thing. And I also like any of the clover families too, because they actually fix nitrogen into the soil. So it's kind of a nice touch. And, on that note, I'm going to be talking a lot about how to prepare the garden this fall. Watch YouTube. On Grower Coach YouTube, we have a lot of really great videos coming out in the next couple of weeks. And some of them are really going to be geared towards this sort of preparing your garden beds for the fall. Got some really great tips on that will really help to just get the maximum amount out of your garden bed. I've talked about regenerative agriculture in the past, and these are techniques that actually is funny that just with my experience in horticulture over the years that I've pretty much always practiced regenerative agriculture in my vegetable garden, but now it's becoming a big thing. Everybody's hearing about it, and everybody's at least a lot of the people in the agriculture industry and people in farming and gardening, they hear permaculture. That's another buzzword that really is very, very similar. But regenerative agriculture is a big thing. And what I'll be doing in my videos as well is talking more about that and how you can implement those techniques just to really make your garden sustainable. So super fun stuff. I think it's very, very fascinating, and it's something that you should learn about. And I'll be putting some more tips and links on our website. Remember to check growercoach.com just because we have our new site up now, and the new site has all kinds of educational opportunities. We do have classes and seminars right now that are available, and you can just click on them. Some of them cost a little bit of money. Some of them are free. Some of them are more intensive, like three or 4 hours long, broken into small increments. But those are really valuable classes for people who are in the garden, whether you're a professional or just a homeowner. It's really nice to get clarification on some things. So those classes are valuable, and we will be adding classes in the fall here as well, and adding more through the winter and into the spring, and so that people can access them at any time. So that's kind of a fun thing. All this is stimulated by the whole COVID thing, because it's got us out from having the public gatherings. We're not having those as much. So because of that, we're just going to go online, and that's the way to go. So, all right. So on that note, we will put the number out there, so write it down. It's 250-862-2525 to get through to me this morning. And we're going to be able to answer your gardening questions. If you call in, anything that you'd like to touch on. Of course, as I mentioned, the fall cover crops, bulbs, just some perennial plants, perennial divisions. At this time of year, we're often dividing those plants in the garden to rejuvenate them, get them on track for next year. So, yeah, there you go. So give me a call, 250-862-2525. We're just going to take a short break here, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. It is kind of a cloudy day today. We had a little bit of rain last night, and it's cooled off a little, which is kind of nice. It helps the forest fires I hope they are done for the season. And we can just get back to a little bit more peaceful existence. And anyway, we do have actually a caller on the line now. So we're going to go to the phone lines. We have Joe on the line. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. Thank you for being there.
Yeah.
My question, which you've probably answered many times,
at least 7 feet
excuse
tall,
me,
maybe more.
when do we plant garlic,
Blooming
and
like
how much
crazy,
sun
too. You
does
gotta
it
have a look at
need?
those flowers. Excellent question. Yeah, the garlic needs to be in a full sun location. So it needs, it could be just in all day, morning till afternoon. So I would just say you can get away with it, say, with a half a day's sun, but it's better if it's like full sun conditions.
Big leaves.
And so the timing on that is, we always say Thanksgiving is when you plant.
I think they're just fun to grow.
So already I'm starting to plan my getting my heads of garlic ready, and then I'm going to pull them all apart and get them ready to plant in. And I'll plant them about 3 to 4 inches deep in the garden, but I always wait to that Thanksgiving long weekend, and that's when we plant it.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, and then we harvest in July, of course. So that's the fun part of it. All right. Well, thanks very much, Joe. Thank you for the call.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. There you go. Excellent question right off the top. That's one of the tips that's coming up here for next month for sure, is going to be talking about garlic. So it's one of our favorite, it's a very common gardening topic for sure. And what I find is that it still likes reasonably healthy, rich, composty soils, but it doesn't like to be soggy wet all the time. It likes to have good drainage. So that's the other good tip with garlic. But yeah, it does really well. Planted right around Thanksgiving. All right, so today I wanted to talk a little bit more about the top 10 topics for the month of September, and these are things that we have on the list that are things in the garden that we want to start working on right now if we haven't already, and just to put it into our minds and plan on it. And as my tip of the week was about planting a fall cover crop, and that was actually my number one thing to do in the month of September, is clean out your veggie bins. And then when you're finished and things are all good and done for the season, then plant a cover crop in there and get it up and going. And again, let those roots go down nice and deep. And, the tops will grow, and we'll plan on those dying off when winter hits. And you could just plant lettuce. You could just about plant anything in there. But I mentioned a few off the top, and I will be putting a list of potential cover crops on our website again under the blog at growercoach.com, so that you'll be able to access that information anytime. All right, so then another thing that we're doing right now is we are dividing our irises and resetting them. I often say that August is iris month because August, typically around the middle, towards the end of August, is when I'll go out, and if I have these big old overgrown irises, or irises that are full of all kinds of, say, quackgrass or weeds and things, what I have to do is I have to dig that whole thing up, dig up all the roots and put it into a wheelbarrow, and then wash it all off with a hose and pull all the little roots and weeds out of them, break them into pieces, maybe about 8 to 10 inches in diameter, and those are really nice pieces of iris. But I can also group together three or four smaller pieces if I have that. But I want to get all that stuff out of there. I want to get all the weeds and wash the soil off, because that might be full of weeds as well. And then where I go back to my planting area, wherever that is, and often you get a lot more iris back than what you started with. So then you need to, maybe divide them into these chunks, like I say, probably about 8 inches to 12 inches in diameter, and that makes a really nice show for next year, rejuvenates it and gets it going. Get it in the ground now, and then just give it a quick watering, and that's it till spring. I do cut them down to about 4 to 6 inches tall at this time of year, just so that they're easy to manage. And then plant them in the garden and let them go. And they're so gorgeous. Next May, they will be fabulous. So really love dividing the irises, and this is when we do it now. Really rejuvenates them, and it's really surprising on the response that they give you next year. You can add a little bit of fresh soil around them as well, which helps to just give them a little extra nutrient. But as you may know, the German irises especially are particularly tough, and they don't really mind having a kind of poor soil and kind of dryish conditions next year. So good time for planting. All right, so another plant that we do at this time of year, so like as I mentioned with irises, it can be anywhere after the 15th of August really to 15th or even to the end of September is fine. But with peonies, we kind of get those going anytime through the month of September, so just a little bit later than the irises. But if you have to move a peony, this is when you do it. This is when we get the best results, and we leave the plant altogether if we can, leave the tops intact. We trim off, obviously, dead heads or anything that just makes it too difficult to handle. But always try to keep the peony in one big chunk if you can. Move it to a new location, and that peony will just take off and grow without much problem at all. Springtime, they tend not to do as well. Like when you move them, they sit and they kind of struggle through the season. And then the following year, they finally kind of perk up a bit and get going. But peonies are sort of known to be a finicky plant, and it can be a little bit slow to establish. So I always like to nail that one as close as I can, try to get it done in the month of September, and go from there. And as you may realize, that some of the peonies are really bad for powdery mildew right now. The weather that we've had recently with these, when it just cooled off there right around the first week of September or so, as those temperatures cooled down, they just became absolutely perfect conditions for mildew. And so mildew has shown up everywhere. And when you get perfect conditions round the clock, night and day, then, no matter what you do, it seems like you're going to get mildew. So in the fall, sometimes we just have to let the plants succumb to it. There's not much we can do about it, but you know that next year you can get on the prevention wagon and hopefully be able to prevent it all through the season. But like I say, once you get into September, that could be the end of your prevention. It's just the temperatures are just so perfect for mildew that sometimes you can't hold it back. But so my top three then were the cover crop, planting that now, dividing your German irises and dividing your peonies. Those are really things that are happening like right now as we speak, and it can be done anytime. All right, we're going to go back to the phone lines. We have Phil on the line. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm back to a popular topic again, is garlic.
Yeah, perfect.
I was wondering, if you plant it earlier, everybody wants to rush, but I guess the rule of thumb is Thanksgiving in October. Mm-hmm. But if I planted it, for example, tomorrow,
yep,
what would be the difference in the outcome come June when it was ready?
I don't think that there is much difference. Like for me, what I think of is I have my garden planned out when I do everything, and I always tag that, that weekend for my garlic, and it's more or less a scheduling thing. Because I'll tell you right now is that I actually planted some garlic back in, I think it was in July, which is really weird. But I just happened to have some nice cloves, and I just thought, well, I'm just going to plant them anyway. So I planted them, and they just grew up like a little onion. And they're sitting in the garden right now, and they'll just go right through the winter. And next July, I'll be able to harvest those as nice big cloves. I don't think that it's going to make much difference to the size. The only thing with garlic is that the longer it sits in the ground, the more potential there is for disease or for insects to get in them. So we kind of wait till the season cools right off. Then there's not as many, onion maggots or any other insects that might get at it because they're all gone for the season. And then you get that nice winter. They'll shoot up usually about 2-3 inches high in the fall. And then they go through the winter. Next spring, they just take off and grow.
Yeah, it's just probably an all-around safer time for all those variables is to leave it later into October, right?
Mm-hmm. I've noticed. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Just a quick question before I forget about the scapes on garlic. Mm-hmm. Is it better to before they curl, to cut them off, that way giving energy to the bulb itself, or would it make any difference in the overall bulb development if you let the scapes curl?
Yeah, I would remove them as soon as I see them forming. That's the general rule. And you're right that what they'll do is they'll put a lot of energy into producing the little bulbils, the little miniature bulbs on the ends.
Yeah,
and that takes a lot of sugars and a lot of nutrient that eats, that those things take away from the plant. In a way, it takes away, but it's part of the plant. But as soon as you see it, you can remove it, and then you're done. And the smaller they are, the easier they are to kind of get rid of. However, a lot of people like to eat them too. So if you like to cook scapes, then what you do is you just let them get to that sweet spot when they're still just tight, and cut them all, and you can barbecue them or whatever you like to do with them, and the rest of the plant will be happy.
Okay, well, thanks for clarifying that. That's good to know. I'm going to put them in soon.
It really any time is fine. I kind of aim for like at least the end of September, but it's up to you. It's your schedule. You have to figure that out.
Okay, and I'm going to be putting them in pots because I did pot planting all this year, like big pots.
Oh, yeah.
So just another quick question. I'm taking somebody else's time up here, but
Nope.
I just wanted to know, I grew tomatoes, I grew my hot peppers, everything this summer, and everything worked out tickety-boo that way.
Mm-hmm.
But this is my first time putting them in bigger pots. So is there any specifics for pot planting versus raised bed or garden planting with garlic?
Yeah, what I would do is I would do both this year because that
This guy's gotta be at least
what I've
7
just found
feet
over the
tall,
years
maybe
is
more.
that root crops like garlic and
Blooming like
onions,
crazy,
and
too.
beets,
You gotta
and
have
that
look
sort of
for
thing, they
flowers.
tend to do a little bit better just in the earth
Not
rather than in a
spectacular
raised bed or
bloomers,
in
but
a
they look
pot.
pretty nice, and
Yeah.
they're
And just
fragrant,
because they
right?
seem to like that cooler
Not
root
quite
system.
as nice as the regular
And the earth is always
Lucianas.
cool, and when plants are
But,
above ground, they tend to get a little too
pretty
cold in the
interesting
wintertime
plant.
and they get a little too hot in the summertime.
Big leaves.
Whereas plants like peppers and tomatoes, they love
And,
those conditions, so
yeah.
they're fine, or sweet
I think they're
potatoes
just fun to
especially.
grow.
But, that's all I
Big
would
ones.
say is that I would do both, and then you compare the difference next year, and then ideally phone into the show here and let us know how that turns out.
Okay, I'll make a note of that immediately.
Awesome. Okay, Phil.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. That's the thing with gardening is it's always an experiment. We don't always know these things until we try. And I always said that, if you've listened to the show before, that I always say when you're planting, say, carrots, you always plant 2 varieties, especially if your garden is new. And you try the 2 varieties, and then you can successfully eliminate one of those varieties. You'll find that one of them is better than the other. So then you keep track of it, write it down, and you're good to go after that. You've just made your garden that much better the next year because plants do respond differently for different soils. All right, so that's it for this part of the show. We're just going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. We are back with you today, and it is a cool, kind of cloudy day, but it's great for gardening. And each week we do have Dan Bruce call in with one of his fascinating topics. And welcome to the show, Dan.
Well, thank you. It rained last night.
Yeah, it's kind of scary a little bit, eh? That was interesting.
Water falling from the sky. I heard about it, but now I've seen it.
Yeah, you've seen it, and you can take pictures of it. Apparently, if you especially on a water surface.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, how's it going today? Have you brought another interesting topic with you?
We're still celebrating the achievements of the Aboriginal peoples of the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, nice.
In the whole business of agriculture. And what amazes a lot of people is the vast number of products that we would be without if it hadn't been for their pioneering efforts.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are huge things like potatoes, tomatoes,
chocolate.
Chocolate. I mean, chocolate is essentially a luxury, but I mean, potatoes and tomatoes are almost staple foods.
Mm-hmm.
And the third great staple food is corn.
Mm-hmm.
Corn in Europe, the phrase corn refers to essentially any kind of grain.
Oh, really?
So wheat, oats, barley, rye, that sort of thing. So it says in the Bible there is corn in Egypt. That's what it meant.
Ah.
When we in North America say corn, most people refer to what you would describe as corn on the cob.
Mm-hmm.
That, the scientific name of that is Zea maize, Z-E-A, maize, M-A-Y-E-S.
Mm.
And the specific name maize is a derivation of a word given to us by our old friends, the Taino people in the Caribbean, who referred to it as maize. And they cultivated it throughout the Caribbean, but ate it probably as it is quite often eaten in China nowadays as an immature, underdeveloped cob.
Oh, yes, okay.
You've been to Chinese restaurants, you've had those little miniature corn cobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really good.
The Taino didn't need to really develop the cultivation and preparation of that so much because they had cassava, which we've spoken about in previous weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But in Mexico and in the southern parts of the U.S., the maize was a lot more important. Mm-hmm. And as with cassava, the native peoples developed a technology that made it palatable and nutritional. The process was referred to as nixtamalization, if you can get your tongue around that word. It meant cooking the grain with wood ashes.
Wow.
Or crushed powdered limestone. The effect of that was to loosen the hard, shiny skin on the individual grains, so they could be separated.
That's very interesting.
The whole thing was made into a ground up,
like a mash,
mush, which could then be processed into various forms of bread, tortillas, tamales, what have you. And eating that was just fine. But if you didn't do that, you didn't go through that process, you ended up with nutritional diseases. So the Europeans took this corn, this maize, back with them to the parts of Europe and Africa and Asia. They didn't take the technology with them. They just took the plant.
Oh.
So there were outbreaks of diseases like pellagra and kwashiorkor caused by people eating unprocessed maize. Doesn't bother us because we eat a great variety of things. I mean, if you're going to dinner, you might have corn on the cob at this time of year, but it wouldn't be that alone.
Right. And do you think the newer varieties are designed to be easier to digest, do you think, or what do you think?
The
sort of newer hybrids, right?
Okay, this plant has been in cultivation for at least 3,000 years. And it's come a long way.
Yes. Yeah.
If you, you can look at the archaeological evidence of corn in the Tehuacan Valley in Mexico, and you've got corn cobs that are about the size of your thumb.
Oh, really?
And they quite rapidly got bigger. And but the plant is totally dependent on human agencies to propagate, because the corn plant that we are familiar with now, if you just planted it and left it alone, it could not self-seed.
Oh.
Because of the way the seeds are enclosed in the husk.
So it relies on some animal or something to come along and rip it all to shreds, and possibly birds or something to peck at it, or
yes, but it puts its money on the human.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's pretty interesting. So then the Europeans came to North America, and then they learned about maize, and they went corn because it was a type of grain. And
well, they
called
referred
it
to
corn,
it,
right?
Yeah, they referred to it as Indian corn.
Okay, so Indian grain in a way.
Yes.
Mm.
And it was, as I said, first experienced by the Europeans in the Caribbean, and then more extensively in Mexico.
Right. That's pretty cool, and it's such a huge thing.
But it was grown in Aboriginal times, virtually throughout South America, certainly in Peru, right up through Central America, Mexico, up into Canada. Because the plant can, in fact, deal with the extended daylight length in northern climates that a lot of tropical plants cannot deal with.
Right. Isn't that interesting? It's just a fascinating topic. Every one of these foods, there's so much to know about it in the background. And things have changed so much, like as far as the development of it and how it's integrated into society, right?
But I think one of the things about it is that a lot of these things are not simply a matter of planting it, growing it, watering it, and then harvesting and then shoving it into your mouth. They're complicated procedures that you have to go through before you can get to your mouth.
Right.
And in at least one case, if you don't get the procedure right, it's deadly.
Interesting. Wow, well, that's a fascinating topic today. It's quite amazing.
7 feet tall, maybe
more.
more.
Ken, that was bad.
That
was
bad.
Crazy too.
I knew. I was waiting for that, so I couldn't help it. But it's maize. But what was the botanical name one more time?
Zea.
Not quite as nice
Zea.
as the regular Nicotianus.
Maize.
But
Z-E-A.
Pretty interesting.
Zea.
Plant.
Nice.
Nobody
Big
can say they
leaves.
can't pronounce Zea.
Yes,
Come on.
and it's easy to remember.
Yes.
I think they're just
There
fun
you go.
to grow.
Well, that's great, Dan. That's a fascinating
ones.
topic once again. So I really appreciate you calling in today and sharing that information.
Well, we will be doing Friends of Fintry will be putting on a full series of lectures for the Society for Learning in Retirement on this very topic, in which we will go into much greater detail.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe have some tasting experiences.
And is there a timeline on that at all, or?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember what the dates are, but it's into a little bit further into the fall.
There you go. So we'll keep people or listeners stay posted. We'll get you that information, I'm sure, as soon as it's available.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dan. I really appreciate you calling in today. Again, another super interesting topic, and yeah.
Don is off doing something, is he?
He's doing something. That's right. Yep.
we don't want to know.
No, we don't know. That's right. Nobody knows. All right. Well, thanks, Dan. Hang in there and enjoy the rain, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Oh, we will. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Take care. Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye. There you go. That's Dan Bruce. He's just a wealth of information. He's just got so much in his head. I think some days it's just about to explode. It was just amazing. This whole summer we've been doing these sessions, and I found it, very, very interesting. There's so many great topics and things we didn't know about, and now hopefully we do. Zea, I'll have to remember that. It's an amazing story. All right, that's it for this part of the show. We're going to take a short break. We do invite your calls, 862-2525, to get through to myself this morning, answering your gardening questions. And we'll be back right after these messages with more Garden Show. We are back with you, and it is a lovely Saturday, as it always is. Always seems to be like that in Okanagan. Even when it's cloudy, it's still a beautiful, beautiful place to live. All right, we have Lynn on the line. Good morning, Lynn.
Good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I had planted glad bulbs this summer, and I was wondering if it's time to dig them up now and how to store them.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Last week, we talked a little bit about how people had inadvertently forgot about their glad bulbs, and they all came up in the spring. So they can survive some winter just being in the ground, but usually the best thing to do is to actually dig them up. And what I do is I usually wait till about maybe anywhere from now until the end of September. And I just kind of let them maybe dry out a bit in the ground if I can, just so that the earth kind of becomes a little bit on the dry side. Then I would pop them out and treat them almost like an onion, where I would take them out and let them dry on a nice warm day, and then leaving the tops attached.
Uh-huh.
And the tops will absorb some of that chlorophyll, and maybe even some sugars that are in the stems will absorb down into that bulb. So I just leave them maybe for a few days, and then I would snip them off, and I just put them into a cardboard box, literally, with a little bit of dry potting soil or peat moss.
Oh, yeah.
And then that just keeps them safe. But it has to be dry. So dry potting soil, dry bulbs, and then you can just put them into they could be almost in any temperature. Mine were just like in a sort of semi-heated garage. So, they were maybe about anywhere from, say, on a low end, say 5 degrees Celsius, and on a high end, maybe about 60 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, yeah.
So I jump back and forth there, but say about 15 degrees Celsius. So it's really just up to the individual. I just find they survive. They'll go almost right to the freezing point because, like I say, they often survive outside, right in the garden. Yeah.
Well, it depends what the winter is going to be like, I guess.
Yes, if you have one of those winters that's really tough.
Yeah.
And what I always notice is that it would be nice if it snowed about a foot and then it got really cold. But often we've been getting the opposite. We'd get a really hard cold snap, and then after the cold snap, we get a foot of snow. And it's like, can we just reverse that? It would be nice to have some insulation.
Yeah. And another question I was going to ask you, I've got a lot of horrible grass in my lawn all around the edges and everything this year. And I don't know what it's called, if it's crabgrass or what it is, but it kind of lays flat and swirls. And I've noticed even my neighbors, they've got lawn care and they've got that terrible grass. And I just wondered if you had any other callers phone in about that or what you can do about that grass.
Yeah, absolutely. It is crabgrass. And to understand a little bit where crabgrass comes from is that it only comes from seed, and the plants always die every winter.
Oh.
So because it's self-seeding every year, sort of the goal is to try to remove it before it goes to seed. So we're probably too late now.
Yeah.
But it pulls out really easy. If you want to, it's not a bad idea to go out and just give it a try and just pull a few out, and you'll find they pull very easily. The trick is kind of learning how to identify them earlier in the season. So even though they germinate, their seeds germinate quite early, sometime around the beginning of May or so. And then the plant just is tiny, tiny little grass that just kind of hovers along, hardly growing, all through the spring and into early summer. And then all of a sudden, when you hit into July, it starts to grow. And it's kind of got a little bit of a fuzzy leaf, and it shoots up between the other blades, and then it lays really flat. And then when you get into August, it's very easy to spot.
Yeah, and it's kind of purplish or something.
It gets purple as you get through the month of August. Yeah. So what I do, it's kind of light green at the beginning of August, but what you do is you learn to identify the little seedlings, and if you can, I know it's a pain, but you pull them out, right? You pull them out by hand. And that's generally, that way you're removing them before they reseed again. It does transfer down the sidewalks and down the roadways because the seeds, you'll see when you go down the street that they're always along the edge of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And so the little seeds are coming from somebody's house up the block, and whichever way the wind blows mostly, and it'll travel down on the sidewalks because it's kind of flat and smooth, and then the seeds will tumble along until they get into the edge of your lawn. And then they slowly creep their way in and do their thing that crabgrass does. So it's kind of it's an interesting species of grass, and there are treatments available through your weed management companies that do lawn treatments, but it has to be applied early in the spring when the forsythias are blooming.
Oh yeah,
that's the timing when you apply those crabgrass preventer, they're called. And that just kills the little seeds as they're germinating, and then it prevents them from coming on.
Well, that's good to know. I guess I'll just have to keep on working on it, and
yeah,
and then I guess just plant more grass over top where you pull out the other clumps.
Yeah, and remember that you grow your grass a little bit taller. So if you're cutting it, say if you're cutting it at 1.5 inches now, if you go to 2.5 inches, the crabgrass has a much more difficult time surviving. And that's another reason why they tend to grow on these outer edges, or especially if you get a spot in the middle of the lawn that's kind of weak or doesn't have much, the grass is not growing really happy, and that's where the crabgrass will really take root. But whenever you see it, I just learn what it looks like, and then whenever I see it, I just pull it, and it's actually I find it quite. I'm not going to say entertaining to pull, but I like it because it's easy to pull, and it's almost like eating peanuts, right? As you start going, you just start going and going and going, and then next thing you do, you've done a patch, say 10 or 15 feet in diameter, and then you leave it and go back. Next weekend, you do a little bit more, and it's just one of those things.
First thing you know, you got a bare lawn.
That's right, and then there's nothing left, but now you can reseed with the good seed, yeah, so...
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's been very helpful.
Excellent. Well, thanks for calling in, then.
You have a good day.
You too.
Okay,
Take care.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, there you go. Lots of crabgrass out there this year. And it does spread on mowers, lawn mowers. It spreads on your feet. Like, it spreads. And, crabgrass was actually, originally brought to North America as a grain, as a food grain, because it produces so much seed that the seeds are quite edible. They would make like a flour out of them. But it's one of those food crops. It's got out of control and taken over all of North America, it seems like. It's similar with buckwheat. Buckwheat is one of these little vines that grows. People often, they think it's morning glory, but it just grows all over everything, and it produces a ton of seed. And again, it's a food crop gone bad. If we look at the weeds, we'll find that a lot of weeds are actually food crops that have escaped. So, if you think about that, that you see all the weeds around, you think it's pretty hard to starve. With a little bit of plant knowledge, you can have a really good dinner and maybe make some bread. Who knows? There's all kinds of possibilities. All right, so we've just got a couple minutes here before our big break for the news here at 9 o'clock, and then we're coming back with more tips and plants and that sort of thing. And just have a couple more really quick ones. Things that we're doing in the month of September.
Blooming like
and
crazy
we did
too.
have a caller about garlic, so we definitely want to start planning for planting. Again, we try to wait till we're through September before we plant the garlic, but we still have to purchase it, and we have to select the varieties. Sometimes people order it, they'll mail order it in, and it's one of the things you want to be doing, well, even at the beginning of September for sure. Deadheading August bloomers. So a lot of the plants that have come through the summer and they bloom like crazy and they're finishing up now, not a bad idea to get out there and just trim off those deadheads just so they don't spread around too much. Some of the beautiful brown-eyed Susans, you see the Rudbeckias, they're just beautiful. And some of them are still in full bloom, just spectacular. But they will seed around a little bit. So I always try to get out and at least trim off some of those deadheads and rake them up and get them into the compost bin. That's usually a wise thing to do, and you do that right about now or within the next week or so. It depends on the location. I have some that are growing in a hot location, and they're almost finished. They started early and finished a bit early. But I have other ones that are a little bit shaded, and they're still coming on strong. So you really have to check your own location when it comes to those Rudbeckias. All right, I also have just another thing about transplanting, that at this time of year with shrubbery and that sort of thing, when you've gone through the heat of summer, when you're transplanting now, it's literally is the second best time for transplanting woody shrubbery. And so we're doing that right now as well. Spring is usually always the best time. If you can do it in the month of March, very early in the season, that's usually the number one time for transplanting woody shrubbery. But in the fall, really is the time to do your perennials and your all your herbaceous plants. So there you go. Lots of tips at this time of year. All right, we're going to take, again, a short break here for the 9 o'clock news. And, we'll be back after these messages with more AM 1150 Garden Show. All righty, we are back with you this morning. We've got Gurinder at the helm, and Don Burnett's away today, but We're doing our best to answer all your gardening questions. There's lots going out in the garden right now. Lots of things going on. And, where I was talking about off the top of the show about bringing in your tropical plants, because right now this is, within the next week, either this weekend or next weekend, I would recommend to get them inside so they're protected. But, the one plant that benefits from being outside right now, at least in a semi-shaded location, would be your Christmas cactus. If you have Christmas cactuses and you can just leave them outside at night, only for about the next 2 weeks, that would really trigger them to start to bloom. Actually, it would be a little bit early before Christmas, but it really makes a big difference on their flowering. They need to have those cold nights or cool nights where it drops down below 10 degrees Celsius to really trigger them to produce some nice blooms. So if you do have a Christmas cactus, and you may have forgotten that you do need to usually put them outside during the month of September to give them those cold nights, you might want to do that now. I've had mine out all summer pretty much because they're getting quite big, so I put them out onto the deck in a sort of semi-shaded location, and I just leave them out, and I believe I'll be bringing them in for sure, if not this weekend, next weekend for sure, and they'll be just crazy. When they get those multiple cool nights, they just it triggers them to bloom, and mine have often bloomed from literally, I would say from November, even actually in October, right through until almost February. So it's amazing how those things respond to the cool nights. All right, so we've got other things as well going on. We've talked a little bit about the sort of top 10 things that are going on, and harvesting tomatoes are something that we're working on right now. And, even though they haven't totally ripened, it's not a bad idea to consider bringing those fruits in as soon as they start to show a bit of color. Just because they're sitting outside, they might be sitting on the ground, or there could be animals that come around at night that want to eat them. So the sooner you get them and get them indoors, the better that is. So I'm just going to leave that at that because we do have callers on the line. So we're going to go directly to the phone lines now, and we have Chuck. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning.
How's it going today?
I'm doing really well, even in spite of the very dull weather that we've got.
Yeah, it's a little dull out there, eh?
It'll get better. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, quick question. Mm-hmm. When is the best time to prune maple trees?
Oh, well, that's an excellent question. Maple trees will bleed a bit when you trim them through the dormant season. Like, they don't bleed when you're pruning them, but they bleed in the springtime.
Yes.
And that's been sort of recently proven to be not an issue. So it still seems that the dormant period is still the best time to prune them. But we also, if the reasons we're pruning them have to be noted, that just means that if we're pruning them to make them a bit smaller or to get them in control, then we actually do a few branch removals, some of the tallest branches that are there. We will take those branches down or even just fully remove them, typically in early August. And so you can take out some of the tall stuff. If you're trying to make it a bit smaller or more manageable, do it at the beginning of August.
Yeah, what I'm looking at is just a couple of lower branches that are way out and they need to be trimmed back.
Yeah, so they could be done anytime during the dormant season. So I would just leave it for now. But as soon as you're into, say, even end of November is fine. You could do it anytime through then till spring. The only thing that some horticultural people and some arborists will say, if you're going to cut off a branch, it might get a little bit of frost injury where you cut it off. So we sometimes just leave it till we're into like February and sort of the brunt of winter is over, and then we make those cuts. So that's what we can do as a homeowner, is you can do it whenever you want, right?
Now, what if you want to, like I've got some tall ones that I'd like to get them to bush out more. Can I just trim the tops off those and will they bush out?
Well, yeah, but I'm a little nervous about doing that just because each tree has a shape that it's trying to sustain, and it's trying to develop its own natural shape, and we don't want to just distort that shape too much. Okay. So we're better off to do selective removal of branches to achieve the shape we want.
Very good.
All right.
Yep, appreciate the answer. Thanks very much. We'll be busy in the spring.
All righty. Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, and we've got Addie on the line. Good morning, Addie.
Good morning, Ken. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. How about you?
I'm fine, thanks, but I'm very disappointed in what I just did with my amaryllis. 2 days ago, I pulled them out of the ground, and I left them on the ground where I pulled them out and forgot about them. So they got rained on for the past 2 days. I just noticed it this morning. So the bulbs are all real wet. So should I dry them out really well before I put them into a brown bag and into the fridge?
Yes, I would for sure. Yeah. Whenever you're storing bulbs, really almost of any kind, it's really important that you don't put them away wet because they will usually go moldy.
Okay. Do you think that I've done any damage to them sitting out there for the past 2 days, just in the rain and cold at night?
No, that's probably a good thing. You probably give them a little shock. That's okay. That sometimes triggers them to form a bud. So you'd probably be okay.
I can put more than one in a brown bag. I can put, I've got 5 of them. Can I put all 5 in one bag, or should I just separate them into separate bags?
As long as they're really, really dry, they should be fine. So what I would do is maybe bring them into a garage if you have a garage and just lay them out. If we get a couple sunny days, move them out into the sun and just make sure they're very dry, because even a tiny bit of moisture on them could be an issue.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, my other question is, you were mentioning Christmas cactus, and I phoned about this about a month ago, but I still haven't transplanted it, put 2 of them into one big pot. It's time to do it now, is it?
Yeah, which one was that again? Sorry?
The Christmas cactus.
Oh, Christmas cactus. Yeah, well, you could transplant them now. The key was to, is just to cool them now more than anything. But how big is the pot that it's in?
Well, they're about 6-inch pots, but I want to put 2 plants into a bigger pot.
Oh, yeah. No, you can do that. I would just say just keep them only on the slightly moist side for the first probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay. See, mine bloomed all summer.
Oh, yeah?
My last bloom, I think, was about a month ago.
Oh, that's amazing. And now you cool them down again, they'll do it again.
Yeah, hopefully
that's awesome.
For Christmas. And my last question is ivy. You know the ivy that grows wild around the city? Well, I've got an area in our complex where I'm trying to put it so it would go along rocks and sort of, up some dead areas.
Yep.
Is it too late to plant it now?
This is Virginia creeper, I think you're talking about, right?
I guess that's what it is. Yeah, I've got them rooted. They're already rooted and everything, and I'm wondering, can I put them in a big pot and sink them in the soil? Because the soil where I'm putting them in is very terrible.
Yeah, you could do just about anything with those things. They survive. They just want to live, and so they're pretty durable. They'll survive just about anything.
So it's not too late now to put them into the ground?
No, it's still fine. Yeah, no problem.
Super.
All right.
Thank you very much, and you have a great week.
You too. Thanks for calling, Addie. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, and we have Dennis available as well. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Ken. Got 2 or 3 little questions for you.
Sure.
I planted the spinach in my garden in August, like Don was talking about.
Yep.
It all came up well. It grew about 2 inches tall. I've thinned them out to the recommended spaces, and they're just sitting there doing nothing. Can I expect them to do anything, or will they not start doing it till February, March?
No, they'll grow. They'll keep on growing. Mine, I did the exact same thing. I planted mine on August 1st. And you know what? I planted them in this one area that was quite rich soil, and then I planted them in an area that was kind of poor soil.
Pretty nice.
And the ones that were poor soil, they didn't grow very big. They grew about an inch and a half tall, and they're just sitting there. But the ones in the rich soil are up about 4 inches or 5 inches, and I'm already harvesting them.
Big leaves.
So would it be worthwhile feeding them?
And,
sure.
Mine are only an inch or 2 tall as well.
Yep, I'd give them a shot for sure.
Okay. My next thing is, my everbeard and strawberries have been in the same bed now since I came into this house 7 or 8 years ago, and I'm planning on putting them into a different spot with a nice fresh bed of soil.
Yep.
Now, will the plants I've got be any good, or will I have to put new ones in this new bed?
No, it should be all right. I would just take the runners, take the little babies off the end and start with those, because that gives you a rejuvenation effect, and you could do that right now if you wanted, yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. And then my last question is, I've got a really good crop of sweet peppers, particularly red ones, but they're staying green. They're just not coloured. Are they likely to get red before the end of the season, or is there anything I can do for them?
No, I think you'll be fine. I think you're probably looking at closer to the end of September, and you just watch the weather. It's looking like it's going to be a beautiful week coming up, like with sun.
Yes, I heard the weather's going to improve for a while, so you think that might get them coloured up?
Oh, yeah, you bet, for sure.
Yeah, another silly question.
Sure.
If I pick them when they're green and they're supposed to be red, what's the difference in taste? Are they still as edible?
Yeah, they're just not quite as sweet. But they will, even if you pick them a bit green, if you can keep them in the right condition, which I'm still not 100% sure what that is. I think it's just in a bowl on the table. But they will continue to ripen a bit. I always like to see a little bit of red on them at first.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of red on some of them, but not a lot.
Yeah, I would maybe pick one or two and then just let them sit indoors for a little bit, and then
like I do with the tomatoes, and they go from green to red in a couple of days.
Yes, you got it, and you got the beautiful temperature indoors, right? So it'll be perfect.
Okay, thanks very much, Ken. Appreciate it.
Okay, Dennis, take care. Thanks for calling. Bye. All right, should we take a break there? We got one more caller. All right, we will take Bobby. Good morning, Bobby. Thanks for calling.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have 2 tables. They are 4x8.
Yep.
I had them built so that I didn't have to bend over to the ground to garden.
Okay.
Now, they have about a foot of soil in them.
Mm-hmm.
What should I do to keep them over the winter? There are no worms in them, so if I put the cardboard on, it'll just sit there.
Yeah. Well, I think. Yeah, I think. You could do one of two things. One thing you could do is you could, put some cardboard on the surface of it, more or less just to keep weeds down and to keep the moisture in there. But I think the other option would be to actually plant some of these, maybe a little bit of fall rye or something in there. Okay. One of these actual annual ryegrass might be a good one to try. And and then that will just grow a little bit of a short kind of bushy green grass. And then what you do is in the springtime, you just kind of scoop a little bit at a time and flip it upside down. So the grass goes down underneath in the spring. Uh-huh. And then that will just rot off underground. And you can just plant right into the surface, add a little bit more compost on the top, and you're good to go. Yeah, you should be all right. Yeah.
Well, I'm up out of Prince George, so I'm not sure. Am I too late in planting the ryegrass?
No, it's very durable, and it actually likes to grow cold, so I think you'll be fine.
Okay.
And even if it all dies off from the frost, that's okay, because you've done what you needed to do. You got some roots down in there, and remember that when roots rot in the soil, they leave these little passageways where oxygen can get in and fungus can grow, which is what we're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling in.
I still listen on Google.
That's awesome. Thanks for doing that, Bobby. All right. Take care.
Okay. Take care.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Now we're going to take a break, and we will be right back after these messages with more AM 1150 Garden Show. With you, it is another beautiful Saturday morning. And, we're talking about gardening. All right, we have some more callers on the line. We're just going to go to Muriel. Good morning, Muriel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I got a question to ask you, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
I put the Christmas cactus into Lurie. When they went down to temperature 9, I thought it was too cold for it. Mm-hmm. Will it bloom again?
Oh yeah, that's it needs to go down to that 9 degrees Celsius
I did put it down, and it was a 9 Celsius. In August or somewhere along that time. Mm-hmm. I think it's August or this is September. It was in August anyway. I put it back in again. I thought it was too cold.
It needs to have a good chill. It likes the chill is what really makes it bloom like crazy. So, like I still have mine outside now, and it's I think last night it was down to 4 degrees. And like I said, I want to bring it in soon, but they say it's going to warm up a little bit now. So, if you need about probably 3 weeks outside. Do you think yours was out for that long?
Mine's right in the house now. We're near the window.
Yeah, it's up to you. If you wanted to put it out for a couple more days, it's okay if it gets down a little bit cooler than normal. So
I thought it was getting too cold for it, so I brought it back in again.
Yeah, where are you? Up on the hills, or are you down in the valley?
No, I'm right across from near the Apple Bowl and Rec Center.
Oh, you should be good there. You've got a little bit warmer. It's kind of a microclimate right there. So I would say put it outside maybe just for a couple more days, and that'll help to trigger it to bloom right around the beginning of October or middle of October.
But if I don't put it out, still I will have it bloom.
Yeah, I think it will still bloom. I always like to just be, a little extra cold at night sometimes.
Okay, I'm learning from you guys.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
I should learn a long time ago, but I'm just learning now.
Never stop learning. It just keeps on going.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks for calling, Muriel.
Okay,
take
bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye. All righty, and we have Henry on the line. Good morning, Henry.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice little rain out there.
Oh,
I just want to know how deep do I plant or insert my tulip bulbs?
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
For this Kelowna weather.
Yeah, well, what we do, the guideline that we use, it works with all bulbs, is that it doesn't matter whether it's, like I say, a crocus or a tulip or whatever, or a daffodil, is that you just take the width of the bulb and then you plant it 3 times deeper than the width. So if you have a little measuring tape, you can just put it right beside the bulb and make sure it's standing upright, root side down, obviously, and then you just measure that width. If it's 2 inches wide, then you go to 6 inches deep.
Yeah, well, most of my bulbs, they're like maybe an inch or under an inch.
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah, so yours would be, probably about that, maybe 5 inches or so, 4 inches. That's about it.
I'm not sure if the soil is dry at that depth or if it's moist. I'm not sure because of the summer was kind of...
what I'm finding is that everywhere I dig where there isn't any irrigation, it is powder dry. Yeah. Like there's no moist. The farther down you go, the drier it gets.
Right. So I should put some moisture in there before I plant them?
Yeah, you know what I would do is I would dig the hole a little extra wide, and I would dig it a little extra deep, and then I would kind of fluff up that soil down below. And sometimes I take some of the surface soil. It might have a little bit of compost in it or something, or let's say it's a little better at the top than it is down below. And just kind of scrape some of that good soil down into the bottom, make a little bed for them, and then fill it up to the depth approximately where you are. It's okay if you're a little bit deeper or a little bit shallower. And just place them in so they're upright, and you're good to go.
Yeah, because the ground, it'll freeze. Will the ground freeze at 4 inches down?
It varies. It probably will.
It depends on the snow, I guess.
Yeah, and the tulips particularly are okay to freeze. Like they are so durable, those things.
They're durable?
Yeah, they're tough.
Okay.
So they'll survive.
I will do that. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks, Henry.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye. All right, and looks like we have Wendy on the line. Good morning, Wendy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Wendy from Salvale calling.
Hello.
To tell the whole gardening world out there that there's a huge, huge group of videos available of you over the last 15 years talking about plants in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And they're available to anybody who has a computer. There's no cost to it. You just go onto YouTube and look for Grower Coach, or you go to the Grower Coach website and you go to videos. Either way will take you there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, Ken, that you have a lot of support within the community with gardeners. A lot of gardeners and a lot of the master gardeners know you, and people in the nurseries know you, and it's just, I'm not sure all the gardeners out there are aware of your expertise in all kinds of different gardening things. So it's just me putting a plea out there to all the listeners that if you love gardening and if you have friends who love gardening, if you would just go on and check out this video, it really helps Ken a lot with his business. And there's so much amazing information out there. I watch them and learn all the time, even though I've been with you forever and I've been listening to you. So
you're a little bit biased, my dear.
Making a plea for everybody who hasn't done it before to go on. When you see this videos underneath, you scroll down and there's a place where you can hit subscribe and like, and all of those things help with YouTube finding. Basically what it does is it helps YouTube
grow. Yeah.
Send Ken's videos out to other people who don't know who he is, people all over the world. They'll offer them up for people to see, and it's so helpful for us. So the
There
people
you
who
go.
know Ken and love Ken, I'm just putting out a plea to go on and help us out. And you'll be surprised at the quality and the amazing information available there at your fingertips. Okay,
Thanks,
that's
Wendy.
no charge for that.
You're very sweet. Thank you, dear. See you
Okay.
soon. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, there you go. That's very sweet. Thanks, Wendy. All right, we're going back to the phone lines. We have Karen on the line. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was wondering if you could cut back rhododendrons.
Yes, well, you can. The timing is sort of interesting. When you cut plants in the springtime, it encourages them to grow and develop multiple shoots and to thicken up and get fuller. So with rhododendrons, they typically bloom in sort of late spring, early summer, early May through the month of May. So people are usually leery about cutting them back at that time of year because they're still blooming. But if you ever, if you just want to bite the bullet, and especially if they get kind of gangly or skinny and they're not looking that great, then I would say I would sacrifice the 1 year of blooms, and I would get out there literally at probably, I would say, about the middle of April and just trim the whole thing back to about 24 inches by 24 inches, and then just stand back and let it come back. And it's just unbelievable. The rhododendrons, they'll shoot out in all different directions. It's kind of slow, it takes till summertime. But by summertime, they're just thick and full again, just like they were when they were younger, and they're rejuvenated.
This one is very scraggly. It has long branches with just a little bit of green on the tops of them that looks terrible.
Yeah. Yep, and that's what you do. You betcha. All right.
Thanks. Bye.
You're welcome. Good luck. Bye-bye. Yeah, there you go. Rhododendrons are really cool, and, they grow in part shade here in the Okanagan because we're quite hot. If you're in coastal areas, they grow just about anywhere, and we need to acidify a little bit our soils, but when you're growing in coastal regions, you don't have to acidify. That's exactly what the rhododendrons love. So there you go. All right, so we're going to take another quick break here. The phone number is 250-862-2525 if you have a gardening question. And, give us a call when you have a minute. And we'll be right back right after these messages with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Welcome back to the show. It is a lovely Saturday on the Garden Show here today, and we're answering gardening questions. So that's the typical format of what we do here on the Garden Show, and we really appreciate your calls. We love to hear from people, and there are no questions that are silly or too easy. Everybody loves to hear the questions. Some people are shy; they don't want to call in. So when you call in, you make it you allow the questions and the answers to come out for people who are maybe a bit too shy to call in. The number again, 250-862-2525 to get through to us this morning. And I do thank my wife, Wendy, for calling in. She did a great job helping us with the new website. And we do have a new website, and we've got a new newsletter as well. Some of you have been tuning into our newsletter over the years, and we've had some challenges getting that out over the years. It's always been so busy in our we seem to run multiple businesses sort of all at once, and we get going, and you just get tied up and caught up in it. And so anyway, now we have more of a stable situation where we have somebody who helps me with the newsletters, and that's Evan. And Evan, some of you know Evan. He's a fabulous guy, super knowledgeable, and he's very passionate about the horticulture industry. And Evan Rafus, and he is fabulous, and he's doing a great job, and he helps us put those newsletters together. And so we will see some more very interesting newsletters, I would say, including an exclusive video that we put into the newsletters that it's just for the newsletter viewers, let's say. So again, all you have to do is just go to the website, growercoach.com, you can click on newsletter, and you are good to go. Put your email address in, and that's all we need. All right, we're going back to the phone lines. We have Ingrid on the line. Good morning, Ingrid.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have 2 Boston ferns that I keep over the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And when I bring them in, because I've had them out all summer, they shed and stuff like that. So I wondered, could I just trim them back and let them start over?
Well, you can do that for sure. I've done that before, and then they kind of just push out again, and because they do tend to do that when they come from like nice, cool environment outside, which they really like.
Yeah.
And then when you bring them inside, it's kind of a bit of a shock, and then they start to shed. Just remember with these guys on the inside that they really need to be almost constantly wet. And it's one of these strange things, and I've grown a lot of them over the years. We used to grow them in greenhouses, and we had just, the hanging basket rows were filled with Boston ferns. Very popular, and I find them very exotic looking. But what I did when I'd bring them home and I had problems with them, and they would defoliate and all that. And so I sat one right by the kitchen sink, and every day I would, I'd get up in the morning and I'd come out to the kitchen sink and I had a window there, and I would take a coffee cup full of water and I'd pour it into that plant. And I did that every single day. And that thing just grew and grew and grew, and it just got to be amazing. And I realized, yes, they need to have very consistent water supply.
Okay.
And if they just dry out a little bit, they start to shed.
Because I water mine outside every day.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And do the same when you move it in.
Okay.
Just be prepared, because some water will come through, obviously.
Yes.
And I think it's something you can just try. That's why I always like to have 2 plants. And one of them I'll cut right back, and the other one I'll just leave. And then I'll experiment a bit that way. But it is common, even when we had the greenhouses, if they ever got ratty looking, and I would just go and trim the thing right back to about maybe 2 or 3 inches long, and then hang it back up and continue the watering program, and they would just come right back. It would, take a few weeks, but they would look good again.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, all righty.
Appreciate that.
All right, thanks, Ingrid.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye. Yeah, Nephrolepis exaltata. One of the early botanical names that I learned back in probably the early 80s. Nephrolepis. Very cool plant. Boston fern. Loves water, that's for sure. It's almost, what I think is another plant that's like that. It always reminds me of a similar plant that needs constant water is the azalea group. The potted azaleas that we get, at Christmas time, people give us azaleas. They're so beautiful, and they're one of the nicest indoor blooming plants. But man, do they need a lot of water. They just need steady, steady, steady water. So that's another thing I did with my azalea one time, is I put it in a convenient spot where I could access it daily, and every day I'd give it a coffee cup full of water, and then about once a week with that azalea, I'd have to actually sit it in the sink and just flood it with water, and they just loved it, and they were perfect. But if I ever let it dry out even just once, the thing would start to defoliate, and that was the way it went. So love those azaleas, and I love those Boston ferns, but they need steady water supply. Alrighty, so we do have a couple spaces here on the phone lines. If you'd like to call in, 250-862-2525. And it's a great time. This middle of September is a nice time of year. I'm starting to see the fall colors coming on really nicely, and I wanted to talk a little bit about fall colors just because I noticed this, what they call premature fall color. And actually, Dawn was mentioning this, I think it was last week, about sometimes if trees are stressed out or maybe they didn't get quite enough water through that heat spell we had this summer, the heat dome, that those plants have maybe sort of semi-permanently damaged or injured. And so if a plant just gets so dry where it almost dies, then you'll see that real premature defoliation where they turn colors before other trees of the same species, even though they're even in the same neighborhood, but that one tree might have dried out too much, and then you'll see it get premature fall color, and then it'll defoliate before other ones will. So that sometimes is a symptom of stress. But remember also that other species of trees, if they're just from a very northern climate, and I think of the green ash trees they're a very northern type tree. And they're one of the trees that as soon as they get a hint that fall's coming, they just turn yellow and boom, drop their leaves. And it's just, they know like, oh, winter's coming. I'm getting rid of these leaves now. And so they don't hesitate because, where they've grown through, the last couple thousand years, it's always been in colder climates. And now if you're in the Okanagan here or in a coastal region, you're going to find that it's quite a bit warmer. So when they get the first signs, they shut down and shed those leaves.
As nice as the regular
I noticed that also with gladitsias, the sunburst locusts. They do that too. They're one of the first trees that will just shed all their leaves. And it's kind of good, when you're in the fall cleanup business, as we are at KHS Landscape.
Big ones.
We we have all of our bookings and everything, but you go out to a place and wherever those sunburst locusts are, they drop really early and they just shed all of them all at once. And within a short period of time, you're able to clean up the leaves and you're done. It's a done deal. You're wrapped up for the fall. But other types of trees, like London plane tree, is one that we often complain about a little bit. Even though it is a beautiful tree, it's a big tree. It's got incredible branching habits that are very, very good. But what they tend to do is because they're from a warmer climate, that they tend not to defoliate very early. So they hold their leaves until they're pretty much in November. And, they're end of October and they're just starting to turn yellow. And then, of course, by that time, we usually get a very serious frost. And when you get that hard frost, the leaves freeze onto the tree. So once they freeze on the tree, they're not going to drop normally. They're going to just sit there until they naturally break off. And so that means that they're scattering leaves here and there all winter long, which isn't a good thing. When it comes to having a tidy yard, that's just sort of one of the bad things with some of these species that are, let's say, native to warmer climates, is they're not in a rush to drop their leaves, whereas plants that come from northern climates, they're out of here. They just they know what's coming, and they know when it's time to drop their leaves. But what is really nice is it's really nice to see the trees starting to change into their fall colors, and it's one of my favorite times of year, whether the sun is shining or not. And actually, often on days when it is a bit cloudy, those fall colors really stand out. And I always look for that, and I love to take pictures in the fall. It's just my favorite time of year, and I love the smell of the air, and I love that beautiful, the different colors, that the trees turn. They can be crimson or orange or yellow, or you just never know. Not any shades in between. Some trees actually have multiple colors on the same tree. So remember, when that leaf drops, what's happening is the tree is absorbing all the green chlorophyll out of it and just leaving the basically the blank leaf behind. So they've taken all the good stuff out, and now it's ready to drop, and it's going to be whatever color that blank leaf is. After you remove all the green, it could be yellow, red, orange, whatever the color is, and that's just the color that framework, that leaf is in just naturally. It's not really turning color, it's just removing the green color. And plants really love to do that. They can store that green chlorophyll in their systems, and it really, really makes a big difference. It holds that in the plant until next year, and then in next year when the new leaves come out, they'll use that chlorophyll to regenerate those new leaves. So it's just a part of nature, and it's kind of fun. And some recent information is saying that the plants will actually they'll actually absorb that chlorophyll, and they'll do it at a certain point, meaning that they start in the spring and then they finish in the fall. And because the springs are starting earlier, then that means that they're going to defoliate a bit earlier in the fall, even if the weather's good, because they only have sort of a finite sort of length of time that leaf can grow. And when it hits its maximum production, and it's like, that's it, it's done, then it could, if it's 6 days early in the spring with the warm weather, well, then it could be 6 days early in the fall when they turn color. Anyway, fall color's fun. It's an interesting topic. All right, we're going to take our last break now, but we do invite your calls. You might be able to squeeze in one or two more calls here before the end of the show. The number is 250-862-2525, and we'll be back right after these messages with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Alrighty, we are back with you today, and it is interesting to have a little bit of rain. It's something that we really need for sure. As I was mentioning to one of the callers there about, we get around, KHS landscape professionals, we're throughout the valley, and so we get into areas where there is no irrigation, and we literally start to dig, and the water, even from the rain, is only penetrating about maybe a half an inch, maybe an inch at most. So it is one of these things that is something to note, is that areas that are irrigated, they maintain sort of a reservoir of moisture, so that means it's more easily able to absorb moisture. But areas that are dry are not really able to absorb the moisture as much, and the water tends to just sit on the surface and evaporate away. That's where, always having organic sort of composted type mulch on the surface of the soil is ideal. I know a lot of people do have rock as a surface mulch, and it helps for sure, a certain amount. But it's that compost that really feeds the soil. It's all about soil health these days. If you have healthy soil, you have healthy trees, healthy shrubs, and healthy plants. In particular, in the vegetable garden, it's really, really important to use that organic composted mulch. Just makes all the difference in the world. We're very lucky here in the Okanagan and in other areas where they have a composting program at the municipal landfills, where people basically give in their composted items. You'll see them here. We put them into the green bin, and then they end up going hauled to the landfill, where they're treated, and they're crushed and ground, and then they're moistened, and then they're heated. Not heated, but they get heated up through the compost process. They'll often even have a fan, tubular fan inside these compost piles, where they start to blow this oxygen into them, and it really heats them up. And so the heating of the compost helps to kill off weed seeds, and it also kills some of the bad organisms that might be in there. But what happens with compost is it develops a very healthy environment very quickly. And what we know now is that the entire earth was designed this way, to have this sort of layer of composted material on the surface. And it was designed to always have something growing, whether it's the grass out in the on the prairies, or whether it was the forests and the trees. But there wasn't really much any areas that it wasn't completely covered with plants. And so it's interesting. And as we learn more, this is actually the basis of the regenerative agriculture that I talk about sometimes. And these are some of the things that we have to watch moving forward. It actually can really help with the climate of the earth and bringing it around. It can be done. And now they know it, and it's a proven thing, and this movement is getting to be huge. In Australia, they have 1,000 farmers there who are already practicing regenerative agriculture, and they make way more money, and it's way easier to do, and it's less labor intensive, and the foods they grow are far more nutritious because of the methods they use. And so, again, I just mention it just so that it plants a seed in a way. And so learn a little bit about it. I'm going to be putting some videos up on our Grower Coach site, where we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But I have a couple links to some really cool videos that I also want to put up there, so that people can learn from the experts exactly how that works. And so I'm very excited about it. Or we might have time to squeeze in one more phone call. If you have a question, 862-2525, and you can give me a call right now if you like, and we can squeeze one more in before the end of the show. But the last few shows we've been talking about, things that we're doing in September, and we typically focus on each month. So when people do listen into the show, it's kind of seasonally oriented. Like, we talk a lot about all kinds of gardening tips, but we're actually talking about stuff that we're doing right now in the gardens or in our homes. And one thing that comes up is and it's actually my 10th gardening tip on my list for the month of September, is to start shortening the days on your poinsettias. So if you have a poinsettia and you save it from year to year, and once you get into about mid-September, it's time to start shortening the days, but more importantly, lengthening the nights. So what that means is at nighttime, you grow that poinsettia, and you really want to prevent any outside light from coming in, artificial light. When the days get short and the nights get long, that's what triggers the plant to turn red for Christmas. So if you want to do that, you start doing it now. But the trick is you put it in a room somewhere where really at night people don't go in and turn the light on and off, because turning that light on and off it shortens the length of the night. So it's ideal if you have a room that you can put it where nobody comes in and turns the light on at night. I mean, if it happened once or twice, it probably wouldn't ruin it, but you want to be as consistent as you can to have 100% success. I really enjoyed having them over the years. We used to have thousands and thousands of poinsettias we used to grow every year in our greenhouse operation back with Don. Usually about 15,000 we would do every year. And we'd have small, like literally little 3-inch pixies and 4-inch that were about 6 inches high, and then 6-inch and 8-inch and 10-inch, and that big giant 12 and 15-inch pots of all humongous poinsettias that we used to grow and sell. And it was just it was a really good growing learning process for myself. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I learned so much. And, that was back in the 80s and early 90s.
Blooming like crazy, too.
One thing that we did was with the poinsettias, we started doing the cuttings on the poinsettias back at the end of June. So that's when all of our cuttings would come in, and we'd take those cuttings and we'd prep them, usually about 3 or 4 inches long, and they have lots of leaves on them. They're prone to wilting.
Pretty interesting.
They're so soft. But then we'd make a fresh cut on the bottom, put some rooting powder on it, and then put it into a tray. And take the tray and put it into a mist propagating system. The mist system would go off. It would just give a nice fog of water about every minute or so, every minute or minute and a half. So it just kept these plants in a lovely situation of 100% humidity, and they would just love those conditions. And because it's in a greenhouse in the summertime, you get really bright light, so it really made a nice environment for them, and they would just root like crazy. So it was still about a 4 or 5 week process to get them rooting. But then what we would do is we would take those cuttings and pot them up into larger pots, like directly into a 6-inch pot, and get them growing in that pot. And then we would do another run. We'd pinch them off on the top so they'd branch, and then we'd get another run of cuttings. So we'd take those cuttings and put them into, say, a 4-inch pot. And then we'd have another run, and we'd start growing those on. And then later on in the summer, probably around the end of mid-August or so, we'd take our last run of cuttings, and that would be the pixies, the little tiny ones. We'd grow in a 3-inch pot. And we would plant all those up. So then we'd have our 3s, 4s, 6s, and then we'd take the bigger 6s. We'd be potting those up into these huge pots to make them for people who needed the big show, the really big show that would happen right at Christmas. So anyway, it was really a fun environment. It was fun to learn how to grow those and all the tricks, because they're a very sensitive plant. They're sensitive to insects. They're sensitive to soil. They're sensitive to overwatering. And when you grow a large number like that, you have to know what you're doing. You have to really watch the details. So anyway, that's my little talk on poinsettias. So if you have one, this is the time to get them. Start shortening the days, lengthening the nights with uninterrupted darkness. All right, it's time for the tips and plants of the week. Alrighty, so my tip of the week is that it's time to bring in your tropicals from outside. This is the time of year when we move them from the outdoors to the inside, and the temperatures are usually when they're about the same is ideal. So I think even this upcoming week, it's supposed to warm up a bit, would be fine for bringing in your tropicals from outside to inside. And my plant of the week this week is the Pinky Winky hydrangea, which is a kind of a funny name, but it's really quite a beautiful plant. Pinky Winky's become one of the popular hydrangeas. It's a full sun plant. It'll grow in part shade, but it prefers the sun, and they're actually reasonably drought tolerant as well. And the plant can grow quite beautiful. This one grows about 5 or 6 feet high. The blooms start out white, and then they turn to that nice, ripe, rich pink color at this time of year. And what a beautiful plant it is. So there you go. That's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com, and remember to check out our new newsletter, which is just, I think this is our second one now. We did in August, and now we're doing a September. We're going to try to do one every month around the 15th of each month. So there you go. That's my tips and plants for this week, and I really do appreciate everybody for tuning in today. It's been a great show. I think we've had a lot of very interesting questions, and we really do appreciate your participation. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in.